called the Look Away, Look Back. Dance move I created. You like it? I know you didn't like it. What's going on, Crypto fam? Happy Tuesday. Happy 5th of July. And welcome back to Sin City Crypto Live. I'm one of your co-hosts, David, and we are coming at you from our studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada, with our daily, only on the weekdays, live shows. Before we get into the content, quick disclaimer, nothing that we say on this channel should be taken as financial advice, so please, as always, do your own research. I hope you guys had a happy 4th. We enjoyed spending it with you, or at least I did. Robin was a little upset yesterday, but he got his hot dog, he got his burger, he's good. Speaking of Robin,
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we are an entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel where we take the old, the boring, the stale information, and we package it up in a fun and sexy way. Also, we do other videos too, not just live streams. And then, if you could help us out by hitting that like button, we would mucho gracias appreciate it.
mucho gusto.
That's right. And if you ain't subscribed yet, notification bell, do that stuff too. Now, how you feeling, David?
Good. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. We're talking about
Burgers?
Celsius.
Hot dogs?
Celsius. It was part of our title. Hot dog burger is over. We're talking, they're paying some loans back. What does this mean? Is your money safe? We'll discuss. We're talking XRP, former chief of the SEC, comes out and says the SEC is a lock to win. We're going to watch the video. We're going to talk about it. We're also talking about Three Arrows Capital. We're talking some pretty cool NFT news. And I think the Bitcoin bottom is already in. We're going to go over some metrics. We're going to talk about why I think the macro will change for Bitcoin only. So, and some Ethereum.
I don't believe any of that.
And some on-chain Ethereum and analytics.
I would assume that we're going to have some...
I don't know, man. I got some pretty good supporting evidence, so you're going to have to wait and see. We'll discuss. But with that out of the way, let's do some roll call. You know, I'm going to take over roll call today. I feel like our people deserve to have their names pronounced correctly for once a week. Brokioshi first in the chat. What's going on? Willie, Chili Willie. Why you loud, gang?
His
HP.
name's so wrong, man.
Yeah, and you say everyone's name wrong. HP, Marky Mark, Steph Curry, Jason Squire, Chef Murder. They're asking how the pig was, Chef. Please, we want to know how your suckling pig went. Let us know. Hendy, Fino, Daniel, Blake with 2 E's, Metaspawn. Welcome in, you guys. Hope you had a good 4th. I cooked carne asada tacos yesterday. Street tacos. Pretty bomb. Robin, did you burn your hot dogs yesterday on the grill, or did you burn the burgers, or both?
I didn't burn anything. What are you talking about?
Okay.
It's coming from the man that has literally microwaved every meal he's had in his life.
Every other meal.
Yeah.
Rocco, what did you make?
Yesterday we had something simple like a caprese, tomato mozzarella with some smoked salmon.
Smoked salmon, that sounds good. Do you like salmon lux?
I like how he said simple and he said caprese, smoked salmon.
Well, it's true, yeah. I mean, it's simple for me. It's not like carbonara or anything like that.
J Cap and Olga, what's up?
I did.
3-course meal.
I made something simple. I brined the turkey for 5 hours, and then I made the turkey.
Well, so I had my traditional hot dog and hamburger, but then I went over the top. I got some duck liver pate. I got some like compound herb butter.
Wow.
And then some kind of bomb ass Gouda cheese. And then I did a little. Then I got like a fresh baguette, sliced it up with some olives and.
Did you get the baguettes flown in from France?
Man. What's that?
Were they flown in from France?
No.
Speaking of France, where's our friend from Paris? Alexander, right? That was his name. Anyways, if it's your first time checking our show out, please say hello in the comments. We would love to personally welcome you to our Sin City Crypto fam. Robin,
¿Qué pasa?
Take it away.
All right. So we are still sitting at this pivotal level here. It is the Bitcoin $20,000 mark. So coming in at $19,682.92. And we saw a rally yesterday, and now we saw a pullback today. So this is, I'm going to go back to it again. We're seeing the same thing we saw when we came into this $20,000. I mean, this is literally carbon copy what happened before. I mean, look. You came up off of the $40,000 range. We dropped down. We wicked down to 27,000, 26,000. And that was the low. And then we bounced back up. And then we traded here right at 30K. We were above 30K for a day or two, under 30K for a day or two, above 30K, but always right there on that little cusp. Little bumps up and down the whole way. And then when this fell through, all the way down to was it 18.8? 17. And then boom. Now we're doing the same thing, man. Same thing. This is looking eerily familiar. I mean, do you agree that we're probably gonna do kind of something similar here? Now, whether or not we end up bottoming out in the same way that we did here from, I know you got this thing where you think the bottom is in, but I mean, don't you think this is just gonna play out again? I mean, we're in a bear market, and in a bear market, you get lower lows and lower highs. And so if you were to look here, you just fall off, you trade, you fall off, you accumulate, you fall off. I don't think we're in for a reversal yet, man. I think the global macroeconomics are pretty crappy right now. And that's just my opinion. Now, getting into Ethereum, sitting at $1,100. You know, is this gonna move against the grain when the upgrade is coming? If, say, we're still in a bear market and the price of Bitcoin and the entire crypto market is down, are we going to have a rally out of Ethereum while everything else is down? Big question. I don't know. What do you think?
About what? Ethereum?
I know I've asked you this several times before. Just say we're still at 20,000 come September, theoretically.
That would be bullish.
No, I'm just saying that. Like, say we're at 20,000 come September, and October the merge comes out for Ethereum. Do you think Ethereum pumps, or do you think it just?
No, it'll pump.
It'll pump.
Yeah,
significantly, like 200%, like go up to two grand or something.
I can see like 1,800, $2,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely not making all-time highs.
All right. And then taking a look, the rest of the market here, the convex finance. It's interesting that people are still FOMOing into DeFi, man. Curve is up, convex is up, man. Guys, tread carefully with this, man. If you're searching for yield, like why? Okay, here's a question: why would you look for yield? You know, I think before the whole implosion of DeFi, we were under this assumption. Hey, man, if you go into a bear market, everybody was kind of on the same page. You go into a bear market, just hodl. And what's the best thing to do when you hodl? Stake something or earn yield on it, so that way you're making some passive income. That's what everybody was talking about. However, people weren't taking into account the mismanagement of funds and irresponsibility on some of these platforms, and you don't know what's going on in the back end. And in contrast to publicly traded companies, you don't know. Nothing is public. Nothing is at face value. Only the DeFi applications. So let's take Celsius, for example. Only their collateralized loan that they have to MakerDAO, which is on blockchain that you can readily see through like a Etherscan. Those are public. However, they have a multitude of deals and they have the treasury assets, you know, everybody's money in wallets. They can do whatever they want with it. And so every project can do the same thing. So you got to ask yourself, like, is 5, 10, 15% yield, is it worth it? Is that worth it? You know, you're gambling all for not that much returns. Comparatively speaking, when you weigh the risk versus reward. I don't know. Do you see any upside?
I've been saying I would not have any money in DeFi, zero.
Maybe. Okay, here's
even
the thing.
if it's the most decentralized, like Aave or
At least not right now, man. At least not right now.
wait till the whole 3AC Celsius saga plays
Maybe,
out.
Here's the thing: when there's a run up, when projects are pumping and the bull market is pumping and everybody's FOMOing in, like, okay, sure, that, you know what I mean. The very small likelihood of projects going under because there's so much capital just being thrown out, and so yeah, man, I just wouldn't touch it. I just think it's such a bad idea, and the risk versus reward is not there. All right, take a look at the crypto bubbles. Basic Attention token up 10%. Steppen is making a resurgence as well. It was down quite significantly in the last month or so. And the Crypto Fear and Greed Index is at 19. So people are feeling a little bit more at ease here. People are, you can see that maybe the sentiment is changing and that people aren't thinking that, it's nothing but doom and gloom. And David thinks the bottom is in, then perhaps the bottom is in.
Obviously, I've said multiple times the bottom's not in. Macro's going to crush Bitcoin, but as you learn more, as time progresses, and you see what people are doing on a global stage, how consumers are reacting, I'm allowed to change my opinion.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
What?
If we go into a deeper recession than we are in now, I'm talking about stock market goes down another 50%. Or I think the stock market, the NASDAQ's down 30-something%. Let's just say it goes down another 40%. So even more further down than we are now. Do you think that crypto will move in an opposite direction in every single other financial asset and equity and stock and commodity? You think it's just going to completely flip everything else and that it's going to be the go-to?
I don't know if crypto can, but I think Bitcoin can.
Interesting.
It's not super likely, but I can see it happening. I can see people going from one sector to another and saying, nope, 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 nope. And then they land on something like Bitcoin and it's already down 70%, 60, 70%. And
but here's the thing. The stock market went down. NASDAQ went down 30%. Bitcoin went down 70%. So in my ideology, I think it's even worse. I think if we go further down, I think if we go another 40% down, I think Bitcoin goes down another 70%. No, I mean, that would put it at your 12,000 that you said last week.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, if NASDAQ, if Wall Street tanks, bro, look at the history. Like, if you watch our show every day, if Wall Street tanks, we've been talking about it. Wall Street goes up parabolically Wall Street just keeps moving up, getting more and more gains, more and more records. Bitcoin is along for the ride. Wall Street pulls back 40%, 30%, but Bitcoin drops 70%.
But you have a major global event that's brewing, which is the recession, and habits change. Price action can change. Habits change. People's perception of certain things can change. And so,
but investing is investing. And if you remove money out of the consumer's pocket, they're not investing. And it doesn't matter if they're investing in stocks. That's why stocks go down. Okay, economy slows down. There's less money, less bonuses, more layoffs. There's less money that goes into investing. So Wall Street shrinks. Every single sector in Wall Street shrinks. That's what happens in recessions. And Bitcoin
is not a section of Wall Street.
Bitcoin is not used as a monetary system. We're not going to the store and just transacting a Bitcoin. It's an investment. So the people that are here now, the Bitcoiners and the crypto people that are in crypto right now, they're in it for investing. And I truly, truly believe that. And because they're in for investing, recession, you ain't investing as much. It's just black and white facts.
I'm saying when you have a catalyst like a recession, habits change. So.
But that's literally, we're going into a recession. That's literally what pulled Bitcoin down. So you go further down, you pull Bitcoin further down. It's a 1-for-1 correlation.
We'll see.
I mean, you look at you look at
You
NASDAQ.
only have 12 years of historical data to go on, and your first 4 years, you can say you shouldn't even count that. So you essentially have 8 to 9 years of looking at how Bitcoin moves versus the stock market.
So you think it's just coincidental that the NASDAQ peaked at the same time that Bitcoin did?
No, it's not coincidental. I'm saying you might see a shift in thinking, in investing strategy. People might see Bitcoin as a risk-off asset. I don't know. Who knows? All I know is
No chance. Like, zero chance.
well, you've been wrong a lot of times. So Bitcoin won't be trading under 30 grand for a significant amount of time.
Well.
And here we are. Here we are. I'm just saying, okay? I feel like everyone is so down on everything, right? And from a contrarian standpoint, because if you follow what the masses do, you're going to get hung out to dry. And so, like, looking at on-chain metrics, and they don't mean everything. It doesn't mean that it can't be supplanted by greater macro or a bigger recession or whatever, or even a depression or whatever the case may be. But looking at just the on-chain analytics, you look at what's going on behind the scenes, who's buying up Bitcoin, what's happening at these exchanges. All you need is one catalyst, and we're back up over 30 grand. Just one. It could have been the spot ETF. It could be the merge. It could be the halving. It could be anything. It could be it could be another country adopting Bitcoin. Look at all the countries that the inflation is just sky high. And in my market analysis, I'm going to show you guys a tweet of a country with super high inflation and what they're doing, what their citizens are doing. The great thing about Bitcoin is it's global. And so the world economy reacts to what the U.S. do. When the U.S. raises interest rates, the dollar strengthens, foreign exports decrease in value. And these foreign countries are at the mercy of the U.S. and what the Fed Reserve does. You don't think their citizens are like, man, we got a president in there that can't put two words together, put two sentences together, and our wealth is dependent on this guy's decision? What's something outside of the U.S. monetary system?
I agree, and
I mean, right? And I'm just putting my brain to use. I'm just like, okay,
Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. It's a way to protect your money. However, it just hasn't grown to that yet, and it's not there yet. And right now, it's for a handful of, as far as the percentage is concerned, it's for a handful of individuals that feel comfortable buying and hodling and not selling. And unfortunately, I just don't think the market adoption is here yet to where the people's thought is that, hey, I need to move as much of my capital over. I need to take as much of my hard-earned money that it's already barely scraping by and pump it into Bitcoin, and it's gonna like miraculously everybody's gonna do that at the same time.
Do you think? Okay, let me ask you this.
I think the shift is happening. It's gonna happen.
Let me
slowly.
ask you this question: do you think a recession can possibly speed up the adoption of Bitcoin? Do you think that's in the realm of possibilities?
On a macro sense, 100%. On a macro sense. But I think that if whatever economic prosperity that we've had is gone, at least in the short term during a recession.
Not according to Janet Yellen.
So you're going to have less money to invest here in the States. And abroad is even worse because the dollar is the strongest. The U.S. economy is the strongest. And we're straight tanking right now. And if we're tanking, all the other nations are even worse.
Right.
And so, I mean, here, pull up my article here. Look, and this is another developed, obviously the second strongest currency here, the euro, 20-year low. Boom. So it's not just us, and everyone else is getting hit harder. And if we're getting hit harder, then those people have even less money to invest. I mean, think about it. If you're in a Latin country, yes, okay, safe haven, Bitcoin, but you're making even less money today than you were a year ago. And inflation is even worse than it was then. So now you're just struggling to make payments on your house or make payments on your car. You got less money. You got less money to buy groceries. You don't have more money to put into Bitcoin. And, you know, I think it takes a nation state level of adoption. You know, what El Salvador is doing as an example for the citizens, because if you take a citizen that is literally bleeding monetarily, they're losing money even faster than they were before with inflation, and they were already scraping to get by. I mean, how much money are they going to put into Bitcoin? I mean, you feel me though? I mean, that's kind of my, now, I think the recession is going to absolutely destroy smaller economies. We saw it, was it Sri Lanka?
Yeah, their whole country's insolvent.
Yeah, and I think with a reset, and I'm not saying this is good or whatever, I'm just saying realistically speaking, as monetary systems and governments collapse, through the ashes you rebuild. And perhaps at that point, you're like, hey man, if we're going to rebuild this thing, let's not depend on the US. They've kind of screwed us over as far as the dollar. And maybe we should use something that isn't controlled by anybody, because what's a better option? Go to China, go to Russia. Like at some point you're like, okay, who doesn't control money, and what money is not influenced by politics? And you zoom out and you look, and there's only one answer, and it's Bitcoin. But going deeper into a recession isn't going to make people FOMO into Bitcoin, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you're right, David. I don't want you to be right, because I always want to be right.
You want to be right because you'll make money. You want me to be right.
But no. And so anyways, I think,
listen, okay, so it might not make sense, and it might sound stupid, but I'm just, instead of just, but you need to, and as I always say, we need to prepare for both sides. And perhaps not only that, but I feel like, you know, if you're a true crypto fan and you love crypto and Bitcoin, right? You see a lot of content creators, not just in YouTube, but everywhere. They're essentially regurgitating other people's opinions. So what I like to do is I like to take all the information I read and I think, okay, what could happen if this happens? What could happen if that happens? Well, and I always, like, from a psychological standpoint, I think not enough people put emphasis on how human beings react to certain things, how they think, how they make money decisions, under what circumstances do they make the best and the worst decisions. And I tend to think about these things. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, if I'm an average person with not a lot of money, I have money in my savings account and I see my spending power drop, can't put it in stocks, bonds are down, whatever the case may be. You can't take it overseas, real estate's essentially coming down. Well, I'm going to look at, okay, what is there? And then I'm going to see something like Bitcoin and see it's the most decentralized monetary system in the world. It's got not a lot of longevity. It's been around for 13 years, so it's got some sort of longevity. You got to believe by now it's not going to zero. And I'm thinking it can't be, the supply can't be manipulated, and it's a global thing. So if I leave my money here, it's probably going to get destroyed anyways. Why not? If I'm going to take a risk during a recession, why not take a risk on something like that? Or maybe people don't even see it as a risk. Maybe they see it more risky to hide your cash under your mattress than put it in something like Bitcoin. So I'm just saying, how human beings react emotionally, logically. That's where I'm coming from when I tell you.
Would you see? I also realize that every single person I interact with that is not in my little crypto circle all have a negative connotation to Bitcoin. Every single person. Every time my name on Call of Duty is the clan tag, my little 3 letters before my name is Bitcoin, BTC. Then it's Sin City Crypto. Every single game I play, somebody joins in. They're like, oh, you're into crypto. Bitcoin. Wow, that thing's dumping, huh? Nobody talks about it like it's the truth. And then every person outside of this building talks about like Bitcoin all snarky. Nobody's bullish on Bitcoin. Only James is the only person I know. I'm being honest, David. Like nobody's bullish. And so if I just think that if I unplug myself from this community and I go put myself in an average citizen in this country, and it's got to be even worse in third world countries where you're even more pissed off and you're looking at the price of Bitcoin. You're like, why would I invest? I'm already lost a bunch of money. Why would I invest in Bitcoin? It's down 70%. Not the right idea. Not the right state of mind. So,
what you say to the people that say, "Oh, but Bitcoin is not backed up by anything"?
You know
how
what?
many times did you hear that?
Here's the thing.
The quote.
At this
And
point,
what the fuck is the dollar backed by?
Here's the,
Exactly.
this is what I got to say. This is what I got to say. That people will get tired of it and they'll go do their own research. And if people aren't ready to listen, they're not going to listen. When I first heard about Bitcoin, I laughed. I didn't care to listen until I got frustrated and I needed to find an answer. And so, first time you heard about Bitcoin, David, were you like, wow, tell me more?
No, I wasn't.
Exactly. And so when somebody comes up to me, or if I'm talking about Bitcoin, or they know I'm heavily invested in a Bitcoin, and they say something, and they're not sold on it, they don't really seem like they care to be sold on. I'm not here to convince you. You know what? Because at some point in time, you're gonna get pissed the hell off, and then you're gonna find it yourself. At some point in time, if you just get pooped on all your life and you just been a crappy person, at some point you'll find God, right?
And if you're getting pooped on in a recession, at some point you'll find Bitcoin.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah,
At some point.
I agree. The more and more crappy policies and the more inflation and the more basically manipulation by governments into monetary system and just debasing the dollar, and the more that happens, the more people are going to go to Bitcoin. However, it's going to take a while. All right, I'm going to give some shout outs to the chat here. We got some new people in here. So Crypto X, hola!
No,
Welcome.
Kryptonite.
And then we got we also saw Sibo Coop. Hola! And then CBC. And then there was one other person I saw up in here earlier as well. Dia. I think Dia was here before. But,
DA. Careful. He's DA.
DA. Hola! Welcome. And then we got
Dollar Enforcement Agency.
We see Bubba back in here.
Algosaurus is
Destroyer
here.
in here. Algosaurus.
What's up, man? Welcome
bro?
back.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So, you know what? And as we mentioned, you know, take what I say, even David said, or take what anybody says with a grain of salt. Just prepare yourself for all outcomes. I mean, for all we know, we could just be, you know, bouncing off of this low here in Bitcoin and maybe even in the stock market. Maybe everything rallies. Maybe this whole Russia thing comes to a grinding halt somehow or another. And, you know, oil gets cheaper and people start trading and, you know, you never know. I mean, I think that's less likely. You know, we can get our opinions on it, but you shouldn't go all in on one direction, no matter what. I mean, just kind of a sound way to live life. That's all I got, David.
You done? We got a juicy hot take today.
All right.
And I got a conspiracy theory.
You know,
By the way,
you know,
okay.
I was going to say, you know, I hate your conspiracy theory.
Okay, listen, though. Listen. A lot of thought goes into it, okay? And I think a lot at night when I'm laying in bed by myself and my wife and kids are sleeping and I have my vape pen on the side of my bed. I'll leave it at that. Okay, real quick, though. When you hear the term conspiracy theory, does a negative annotation come to your mind? Do you see that in a negative light?
Yeah, because most of the time, I would say 95% of conspiracy theories are so far out there.
Yeah.
You're just like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, this is made with you know, baby fetuses. You're like, what? Like, stop.
So what's a better term we can use?
David's intuition.
Fortune teller.
I do. David's intuition. We should do can Robin has his story time. Can I get a David's intuition time?
Okay.
Thank you, Rocco. All right.
And then
I write it down.
during the Davis Intuition, we're gonna have a graphic of Sasquatch coming across, UFOs landing.
I like
you're gonna
that,
have
yes.
you're gonna have the X-Files music playing with.
Oh, I love that one.
You gotta have a pyramid on there for sure.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
Nicolas Cage too.
Yeah.
You can't be a conspiracy theory without Nicolas Cage. He's like, all right, look. He's like, there's actually a treasure map on the back of the dollar, and if you follow it, it goes to.
Gotta be
Anyways.
also some Denzel in there too.
You leave Denzel out of this.
There is Nicolas Cage. We gotta
Denzel
put
Washington, best actor to ever live. All right, Rocco, roll the hot take. Let's go.
It's hot.
We got a juicy hot take for you guys today. So our hot take, I have to preface it with an article. Rocco, pull up my laptop. It was in our title, okay? And we'd like you guys to participate, okay? If you're a member of the channel, as we're talking, Robin's making a good point, put Robin's face +1. If I'm making a good point, put David's face +1. If you're not a member, you can join. If you don't want to join, I don't know what to tell you.
Also put Rocco's face +1.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, if
I
you
don't
just-
really know what
if
that
Rocco
means.
decides-
but
It's okay.
You're
Or if you're-
neutral or something.
If you want some espresso and pastries, put Rocco's face. All right. Celsius Network kicks off July by repaying $142 million to MakerDAO. Celsius Network has repaid over $142 million to MakerDAO since July 1st, rapidly lowering its Bitcoin liquidation price from above 5 figures to go under 5,000. The company paid off further debts to Aave and Compound on July 2nd, which amounted to $67 million. Robin, does Celsius paying off their debt, is that a sign that Celsians will receive their money back? I'll allow you to go first, and then I'll bring it back around. They're paying off their loans. Are they paying off their loans to set themselves up to pay their consumers back? The typical average unsecured debtor, which would
Let me
be...
explain something to y'all, man. This project is toast. Celsius is done, nail in the coffin, and unfortunately, ain't none of the retail investors getting their money back. You want to know how they're paying these debts off? These are institutional debts. So they have secured debt and then they have unsecured debt. The retail investor is the unsecured debt. And so if you're looking at it from a liquidation aspect, if you're looking at it from a lawyer and institution side and bankruptcy glasses, you're looking at it like, okay, I need to pay off this debt, this debt, this debt, and this debt, because I have this amount of money, okay? Because they are not 100% broke. So there is funds left in Celsius. The funds happen to be, a lot of it, at least, comes from the retail investors. So they're not going to close down and then just money's going to disappear. So if you're going to basically go away, which is what they're going to do, they're going to take cash on hand and they're going to pay back some of their debts. They're going to start with these large debtors, the big ones, the ones that they have the most obligation to do so. Because if you read the fine print, you don't have any. If you read the fine print, you ain't got no rights to your money.
Zero.
Not as a retail investor. Let me pull up yesterday. Here, I'll even show you.
Oh, yeah, we didn't show that yesterday.
Yeah, here. Take a look here. So, pull up my laptop. So, I got to scroll down. This is a long-term. This is from Celsius's website. And so, where is it? There it is. So, if you're wondering you're going to get your money back, here's, this was from yesterday. We just didn't get to it. Glad we still have it. Now, consent to Celsius. So this is your consent to Celsius. Digital assets, including ownership rights and the right without further notice to you. That's funny. Without further notice to you, to hold such digital assets in Celsius's own virtual wallet or elsewhere. So they can hold it in their own wallet or they can hold it wherever they want. And to pledge or repledge, rehypothecate, sell, lend, or otherwise transfer or use any amount of such digital assets. separately or together with other property. So basically what they're saying here is your digital assets, without telling you what they want to do with it, can go to their wallet or somewhere else, sell, lend, transfer, put it together with other people's money, with all the 10 rights of ownership, and for any period of time, and without retaining in Celsius's possession, so that Celsius doesn't even have to hold it, and then like an amount of digital assets or any of the monies or assets. Okay, and to invest digital assets in Celsius, full discretion. This was long. I didn't read it word for word. Just highlighted stuff here. Now, in the event that Celsius becomes bankrupt, enters liquidation, or is otherwise unable to repay its obligations, any eligible digital assets used in the earn service or as collateral under the borrow service may not be recoverable, and you may not have any legal remedies or rights in connection with Celsius obligations to you other than rights as a creditor of Celsius under any applicable laws. But when you ask me, are people going to get their money back? Hell no.
So then why are they paying off these loans?
Like I said, because this is the consent to Celsius for digital assets. This is for their staking. Look at this. Look, earn service. Everybody, all the retail investors, that staking, that was an earn service. So you were basically taking undue risk by getting this returns. Now, what was not an earn service, which was not an uncollateral, which was anyways,
Unsecured debt.
Unsecured debt. This is unsecured debt. The real debt was them borrowing from Aave. The real debt was them borrowing from Dow.
Those are
they
secured
have money
creditors.
on hand. The money on hand is the retail investor that has no rights. So the retail investor has no rights. That's money because it just says it right here.
So are you saying they're using retail money to pay back these corporations?
Yes, that's what I've been saying. Yes, 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 yes. And so if you have this false sense of hope that that you see them paying off their loans is a hope that you're going to get your money back, I think it's far from that. I think it's so far from that. It's comical. And so did anybody using Celsius even know that was in there?
No. Why wouldn't they? Who the hell reads that long?
That's a long page. Have you ever read a full terms and agreement of anything, like perhaps like a credit card thing? Like, you know, when you get the credit cards, like
the only thing I have read front to back was when I signed my mortgage. That's the only thing I read. Literally, I spent a day and a half reading every single line. It was the biggest purchase of my life. So, all right, hear me out, okay? First of all, Celsius does not give a shit about you or your money, and you can forecast that by looking at how they use your money to make themselves money, taking unnecessary risk, making dumb decisions, and not giving three shits about people like you who had money on Celsius. So, yes, they are paying their loans back. Robin is right, but I think there's a bigger thing brewing in the background, okay? Why did I say, Robin, why did I think, my theory, my conspiracy theory, my intuition, why did I say I think Gary Gensler is not going to approve an ETF? Who did I say I think they would approve an ETF to? Or that might want to launch an ETF that he's going to give the approval to? Remember the company name? Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs. Okay, pull up my laptop. Goldman Sachs is soliciting crypto funds and traditional financial institutions as part of the deal that could see it buy Celsius's crypto assets at a discount. Goldman didn't want to buy into the top of the market. This is more their style, so hear me out. Celsius is using, because if they go bankrupt, not good, okay? Litigation, probably the government's going to look into them. But if they unlock, because what happens when you pay off these loans, you unlock your collateral, you drop the liquidation price and you unlock some collateral, okay? Coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever the case may be. They're using retail money to unlock collateral. Eventually, they'll unlock all of it. And guess what? Goldman Sachs is going to swoop in and buy everything at a discount. They're going to buy out Celsius. Celsius will wash their hands. Retail might get some pennies back on the dollar. And guess what? Now Goldman is sitting on tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin. Now they go to apply for a Bitcoin spot ETF. Gary the Gun Gensler, who worked for Goldman Sachs for 16 years, he was the head of finance at Goldman Sachs. He will push that ETF through.
David, good God, bro. Like,
tell me it doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense.
How does that not make sense?
None of it
How
makes
does
sense.
that not make sense?
Okay, first of all,
Okay.
Do you understand
Fact
how
by
collateral
fact.
works?
Go fact by fact.
Okay. How does collateral work? Okay, they got a loan. Okay,
correct.
They have a loan, so they received money.
They put up
So,
Bitcoin.
do
They
you-
receive cash.
Yes. Okay. Now, hear me out here.
Okay.
You're saying you're unlocking collateral. You don't get your collateral back.
You're
They're
unlocking,
paying.
just like, hold on, just like MicroStrategy said, if the price of Bitcoin dips below a certain amount,
Okay.
you can add more Bitcoin to it.
Do you know
Okay?
what? Okay. Listen. What they're doing, they got a loan. They say they put up 5,000 Bitcoin, okay, for their loan.
Okay.
Okay. When they're paying it down, they're just giving them more money, and it shrinks the amount of collateral they have. That's it.
So what happens to that collateral? Where does it go?
It got it in the form of a loan. The loan is the.
But when you
loan is
pay the
other
loan
side.
back, you get your collateral back.
They're not paying the loan back.
That's what they're doing. They literally, the article says they're paying back loans. Kicks off by repaying $142 million to MakerDAO.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter because it doesn't fit
all
your narrative.
All they're doing is clearing up their debt so that way they can have more cash on hand.
They're paying their loans back so they can get their collateral and then sell off the entire company to Goldman Sachs.
All about. Oh no, they're not selling their company. They're selling your digital assets.
They're
Goldman
sell-
Sachs.
they're
Look
gonna
at the
s-
article. Look at the article. Goldman Sachs doesn't want Celsius. They want their assets.
Crypto assets at a
Yes,
discount.
they're gonna. Okay.
So if Celsius has
can't-
no assets, then the company will cease to
Celsius
exist.
can't sell their assets. They're closed. They're no trading. So right now, they can't go to Coinbase and be like, hey, can you buy all of these Mina tokens? Can you buy all of this Ethereum off of us? Can you buy this? No.
So Goldman Sachs is going to buy it.
Yes. That's fine.
Okay.
All they're doing is liquidating. They're just taking their tokens that they have at face value. They're selling them at a massive discount.
No, they're
for
not.
cash. That's what they're doing.
That's what Celsius is doing?
Yes.
They're
Okay, then what is Forbes doing? What is Forbes doing? Or not
For-
Forbes. I mean, I'm looking at
the article.
But what is Goldman Sachs doing?
Goldman Sachs wants to buy Celsius's assets at a steep discount.
Okay, so then what is Celsius doing? They're selling their assets at a steep discount, right?
But they're not selling them to Goldman Sachs right now.
But they will. That's the
They
whole thing.
will. That's what I'm saying.
Then
They're
what's-
paying their loans back. They're going to unlock the collateral they put up for those loans, and then now they have all these assets. And
all
Goldman
they're
Sachs
trying
steps
to
in
do,
and they
all
buy
they're
it at
trying
a
to
steep
do
discount.
is pay off their big debts. That's all they're trying to do. So that way
But
they don't
why?
go to
But why?
prison.
Okay, but
so
why?
they don't go to prison.
That's bullshit.
Because otherwise
That
it's
is
fraud.
BS.
You can't close up a business and walk away with suitcases of cash while you owe
It's-
people. You have to pay everybody back.
Why not just go bankrupt and let the courts decide who gets paid back?
What happens
That
when
would
you
be
go
easier.
bankrupt? When you go bankrupt, they liquidate everything you have at more of a steep discount. So if you're gonna go bankrupt anyways, they're gonna make you pay your debts anyways. And instead of the
Dude.
courts seizing your assets, why don't you sell them on your own terms and get as much money as you can instead of letting the courts do it? Because if the courts liquidate your assets, you're getting even more pennies on the dollar compared to what you would normally get. So why not liquidate them yourself? And if you're trying to avoid jail time and fraud and you have to pay back your debts anyways, then you know what? You're just having a flash sale. You're selling all of the assets that you have that are in unsecured debt by your retail users first, and then that's it. That's it. This is not complicated. You have example after example throughout the financial history of the world where companies mismanage funds and then they go through the process of foreclosure or liquidation or bankruptcy. It's textbook, bro. It's textbook. You have what you have on hand, you liquidate, you pay the important people off, and you screw everybody else. It's literally been done millions of times over, and this is no exception. And the fact that you sit here and say, well, Goldman said, like, it doesn't matter who it is. It's
So it's
cut
all
and dry.
coincidence.
What is coincidence? The coincidence that this has happened a million times before, that a large company with a lot of money can come in and buy somebody's assets at a discount. If I have a restaurant and I go under, there's gonna be a bigger restaurant. There's gonna be an Olive Garden that's gonna be like, oh man, hey man, we need new refrigerators. This one just went out of business. They don't want my company. They don't want to all of a sudden start my own burger stand that I had that closed down. They just want the equipment that's in there because it's valuable and they can get it at a discount. Goldman Sachs doesn't want Celsius. That thing is poison right now.
They want their assets.
Yeah,
And what are
that's
they
it.
going to do with their assets? They're going to file for a spot
sell
ETF.
their assets at a discount.
Nope.
They're going to pay back the creditors, and that's it. That's all it is.
Celsius isn't going through all this trouble to pay back loans and try to get money from here and here to try to save themselves from jail time. They're going to jail. They're going to go to jail because why did you use users' funds for this?
No, if you don't properly... Oh, no. They're not going to jail for using users' funds because in their user agreement, they explicitly said, hey, we're going to do whatever we want, and if we mess up and we lose your funds, it was in the agreement. So...
Well, you know, Elizabeth Warren is going to want to hear from them.
But you know what they are?
To me, there's too many. It just makes too much sense to me.
But I don't even understand what your
Because
I don't
you're-
understand what your conspiracy is even. What are you?
Okay. They have I believe that they have a mutual agreement with Goldman Sachs. Pay off these loans,
So
unlock your coins,
Celsius has
sell
an
it to
agreement.
us, and Celsius walks away.
But how does that help them? So
How does that help who out?
okay, how does Celsius pay back all their debts, retail included? Because you can't.
They're not paying retail back. So that's out of the question.
Hold on. When
And they're in
when
the
you wipe
process,
your hand, what does this wipe your hands? Does
You
that mean
walk
they
away.
Does that mean they open up for business again?
You pass
I'm
that
curious.
pass that on to
Okay.
someone like Goldman
Okay,
Sachs.
let's just say your theory is 100% true. What happens when they execute? What happens to Celsius after all this happens? Are they open for business again?
No, they're done. They walk away. They're done.
Then what is the conspiracy that they're selling assets?
That Goldman Sachs is going to acquire these assets on the cheap. They might pay retail investors pennies on the dollar, and then they're going to use those assets they already have and file for a spot ETF.
Who would file for a spot ETF?
Goldman Sachs.
Why would they? Okay, that makes no sense.
Why does that not make any sense?
Why
does
do you
that not
need-
make any
okay,
sense?
You don't need assets to file for an ETF.
It would be easier.
No, it wouldn't.
Then why is Grayscale in the driver's seat?
Because they physically have Bitcoin.
Then that's what Goldman Sachs would
No.
have. They would have Bitcoin. Because they would purchase the assets from Celsius.
assets. They're going to buy all their assets. They have tons of Ethereum. They have tons of other tokens. They're trying to get into crypto. They're not trying to get into Bitcoin. And
Time will tell.
if Goldman Sachs, if they
We're
wanted
arguing
to get,
about opinion here, so time will tell. Let's move on.
no sense.
Time will tell. All right. I think outside the box. I know you have a hard time doing that, but all right, let's move on. What? And that's what's so unique about the show is we both make good points. You might agree with me, you might agree with Robin, but one of us will probably be right. That's
But there's no way. I feel like your conspiracy theories have no merit.
Intuition.
They have
Like-
no merit. Okay.
No, Goldman Sachs. There's not even Goldman Sachs. How many ETFs does Goldman Sachs have?
0
So their first ETF
will be a Bitcoin ETF.
is going to be a Bitcoin ETF. So they decided to never get into the Bitcoin. They never got into the spot market. They never got into ETF market. And now instead of getting into a traditional ETF, they're going to all of a sudden be like, you know what? We've never done an ETF, but we're going to all of a sudden we're going to do a spot Bitcoin ETF. And we don't even hold Bitcoin. And like, yeah,
They will hold Bitcoin soon. All right, let's move on.
if they want to buy Bitcoin, Goldman Sachs can buy Bitcoin. They don't need to go scoop it up. They don't need to go to a yard sale to go buy Bitcoin.
We're talking
And
XRP.
Goldman Sachs, one of the largest companies in the world, if they want to buy Bitcoin, all a board member has to do is say, "Hey, let's buy some Bitcoin." That's
at
it.
20,000 versus buying it at 10,000.
They're not going to sell their Bitcoin at 10,000. You know what's going to be liquidated cheap is everything that's not Bitcoin.
Okay.
Okay, Coinbase would buy any exchange would buy Bitcoin at a massive discount. You understand that the price of Bitcoin is the price because that's what people are willing to pay for it. So just because something's getting liquidated, okay, if a company is going out of business, say a pawn shop is going out of business, you think they're going to sell their gold for 30% of what it costs? No, gold is the price of gold because it's always the price of gold. People are always willing to pay that. Now, if the pawn shop goes out of business, they might liquidate and they might sell their basketball cards and all these other things. They might sell those at a discount, but their premium commodities are worth what they are. They're going to sell those for pretty damn close to what the price is anyways. So if there's 10,000 Bitcoin, if they even sold it for $1,000 off of the market price, Coinbase, Kraken, every single exchange would line up and be like, yo, I'll buy them. Because they buy them from the miners at the cost. So they buying $20,000 Bitcoin from the miners every single day. And so if an exchange had an opportunity to buy Bitcoin at even 10% off, they would buy it. Now, assets, that's a different story. All those other fucking cryptocurrencies they got on hand. I mean, look at Celsius's portfolio. They have a lot of stuff. Those are the assets that Goldman Sachs is trying to buy, not Bitcoin.
Okay, let's move on. We're talking XRP now. All right. So this is, oh, by the way, this is on Twitter. This is from @NerdNationUnbox. He posted a video. The ex-SEC chief of the Division of Enforcement, Robert Cohen, responds to a question about the implications of the SEC losing to Ripple. Pretty interesting. Pay attention. We're going to talk about it when we come back.
Let me take the opportunity to answer one of the questions from the audience. So a question from the audience we got was on this topic. What are the implications once the outcome of Ripple XRP is decided? So the way I would comment on that is when I was supervising the group, we were very careful about what cases we litigated because in such a new area, one bad decision could really have a programmatic impact. And there was one case, it was a small fraud case where the commission initially lost the motion for preliminary injunction. And it was in, Law 360 and all the industry publications the next day, SEC's losing. And, it was a surprise. It was a very straightforward case. We thought it was somebody who made up a fake blockchain regulator called the Blockchain Exchange Commission and put the SEC's address as the address for this fake regulator. But it was all over the news that the SEC's losing. Well, a motion for reconsideration was filed and the judge reversed the decision. And that got, not as much news as the initial decision got, but it kept the track record clean. So on the question of the implications of Ripple XRP, I mean, on the one hand, it's only one case, it's only one judge, it's district court. But for such a new innovative area where people are following, as Christy went through those decisions, people are reading every line of every decision. There's a lot on the line, I think. There's a lot on the line for the program. If the commission loses a big case on a significant legal issue, it's not necessarily binding. It's one district court, unless it gets appealed. But to lose a prominent case, I think, has the potential to have a significant impact on the program. Okay, well then let me take.
So, Robin, is the SEC too big to lose? Like, do you agree with this guy?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I got kind of lost in that legal jargon, man.
Okay, I'll break it down. So he's saying there was a case he's comparing it to where the SEC lost. Okay, it was this company that came up with blockchain enforcement agency and put the SEC's address and were pretending like they were an actual federal entity. The district court ruled against the SEC, but the SEC filed an injunction or whatever the jargon is, and then they won. Now he's saying that and the SEC has a pretty clean record of winning. If the SEC loses to Ripple, they're going to do the same thing. And so essentially saying they're too big to lose. Like they're part of the federal government. This is why they won't lose. Even if they lose now, they'll just file an injunction, take it higher and higher and higher until they eventually win.
I mean, that's what happens when you have, it's not just departments of government. It's also anyone with enough money. You lose a court case, you file an appeal. And so if it's an appeal and, per a person or a company, the same, it ain't gonna be no different. Nobody goes down without a fight, man. And if you have, at the end of the day, you're gonna have one judge or one person that decides, the case. And so you can make an argument and be like, well, hey man, this person's opinion was influenced this reason or that reason. I don't know. Anyways, it's standard that it's gonna go whoever loses, even if XRP loses, they're gonna file appeals. And
So are we okay? So you're saying if both sides lose, they're filing. So,
but that's every single major court case in America.
When's the end?
That's
We gotta
how
wait
that's
5
how
years?
that's how courts work.
It's been already what, 2
No,
years?
but okay, but here's the thing. Once a decision comes down, that's the decision. Then moving forward, if you reverse it, that'll come later, and then that'll change the original decision. But from the moment that the decision is made, that's what it is. If you go in front of court and you go to prison, say you get found for murdering somebody, and you had a confession or whatever, you go to prison right then and there. That's it. Start. That's the verdict. You go in.
I like
now, if you file an appeal and then 3 years later, 4 years later, they found that you were coerced to making your
you're acquitted,
admission,
they'd let you go.
Yeah, and you're acquitted.
Okay.
Then 4 years later, it changes. And so if the judge were to side with with XRP or Ripple Labs, and then that was what happened, and SEC can go do all the injunctions they want. From that point forward, unless something changes later on down the road, and which possibly.
So there will always be a cloud hanging over XRP.
No, I mean if they win, there is.
But the cloud is. Hey,
no, you could say the same thing about any. You could say the same thing about the Supreme Court thing. Well, at some point they can. You could say the same thing. Well, Roe versus Wade that passed. Well, you know what? 45 years from now, somebody can overturn it. So there's always going to be a cloud. You can say that about anything.
Yeah, but
any
it's not
court
going to be
decision.
45 years.
But what I'm saying is that court case, as an example, Roe versus Wade, it was a cloud, as you say, for 45 years. And so there's at no point is something ever ruled on for eternity. So you can say it about anything. Doesn't matter. But once a judge says, passes verdict, I think this is it, then that's it.
I think Supreme Court cases are a little different.
They're the same, but they're just magnituded up. There's no
higher than the Supreme Court. There's also
but here's the thing.
These guys serve
the Supreme Court ruled on Roe versus Wade 40-something years ago, and
why
then
was
now they overruled it because there's more people there. So just because the Supreme Court isn't even the last say, because when new Supreme Court members come in, they can change what the old ones say.
But that rarely happens. We saw three under Trump.
What I'm saying is that there's no court case on this in the history of the United States that can't be changed or overturned or changed. That's just the way our system is built. That's the way it was built from the ground up.
I don't agree with this guy comparing the Ripple case to this other case, because the other case was clear cut and dry. You're over here using the SEC's address for a made-up blockchain enforcement agency. Like, I don't know how the first judge saw past whatever he saw past, and they had to get another court to overturn it. But I think this is pretty cut and simple. It's you go back to law, you approve this under this law, and these are the same things. Why are you not approving the same thing under the same law that you passed one similar to it previously? So I think it's more cut and dry versus comparing it to something like what happened in 2018, what this guy's talking about. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, the clean record the SEC is because all the time they get settled. I mean, it's not like they win in court.
Well, I mean, you're going to the court. You're going to court with SEC. I mean, the average person will be like, holy shit.
No, but XRP is a multi-billionaire company. They can afford to go in appeal, or they didn't even settle because unless the cloud is off.
You see the headache that this has caused. Oh, yeah. You've seen the headache that this has caused just straight up for Ripple Labs. Now, in the event they win, you could say that it's well worth it. But if you're another crypto company or just any company in general, would you want to go through all of this? Like, you know what
I mean,
I'm
would
saying?
you
Like,
have the money to go through all of this? That's
no,
the
but
other
what
thing,
I'm
too.
saying is like, can your brand take this punishment for 3-4 years, first of all,
Right.
and then come out on the other side?
I mean,
and so if somebody settles, it doesn't mean that they're settling because they don't have money or they don't like me personally. If I had a company, I wouldn't fight the SEC. I don't even care. Like if they sued me, like they sued BlockFi, for example. BlockFi probably could have made a case for themselves, and they probably could have, maybe could have won it. They could have won it.
Probably not.
But the thing is regardless, even if they believe they won it, like, the board members at BlockFi had to sit it down and be like, is this worth it? Look what happened to XRP. And so,
But XRP has still been in the top 10 throughout this entire court case.
they're in top 3,
Right.
In the last
but they're still
cycle.
in the top 10. That says something, right?
But
because
I think it's
of
different.
this. Because also you got a lot of people thinking like, man, when this settles,
It's gonna pop off.
It's gonna pop off. Yeah, and I think that's the only reason it's really hanging on.
Another case, I don't know if you've been following, is Library. It's another smaller company that is fight with the ACC, and they don't have that much resource. But the problem is the ACC, it wants them to accept to be something they're not.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I don't know. That's I don't know. Nobody wants to go against the ACC.
Yeah, and
And Jason said he's saying that criminal law is different from the SEC legality and different from federal cases. Like, yeah. I was just saying that no court case is permanent, tattooed, like unchangeable. I was just giving a reference that even Supreme Court decisions, as
Can be
concrete
overturned.
as they are, can be overturned, and any decision. And
just on a different level.
yeah, and I'm just giving examples that there's nothing can't be overturned. So even if the SEC does lose, they can overturn it, or vice versa, Ripple Labs and whatnot. So
All right, let's move on. Crypto lender Coin Loan, really original name, reduces its daily withdrawal limit by 99%. Estonia-based crypto lending platform Coin Loan is slashing its daily withdrawal limits from 500K to 5K. That's a freaking high limit for $500,000 a day. Anyways, they said the decision wasn't driven by market instability and claims to be, quote, probably the only company unaffected by the collapse of the Terra Luna, Three Arrows Capital, and others. What? So then why why?
What is left?
Like, does this make any sense, Robin?
not at all.
Guys, 99% withdrawal limits now, but it's not, we're the only company that's fine. Like, we weren't affected by any of this. It's just temporary. What? What do you think it really is? They were affected by those companies? Anyways, I hope none of you have any money on Coin Loan.
I was over here, was looking at articles and pull up my laptop. Look at this. I just happened to come across this. His dog has adopted 15 little duckies, bro. So apparently the duckies think that this is the mama.
Oh, look at that.
Sometimes all this arguing,
Makes me
you need to
Makes me crave foie
you
gras.
need stop it. You need to get into a nice little warm piece. Like, if this doesn't warm up your heart, I don't know what does.
Robin, you don't have a heart, though. We forgot to turn Robin's heat lamps on today, so it's a little cold.
Look at the ducks on the back.
That's pretty cute.
All right.
And then they're gonna show
My daughter
Elizabeth
was
Warren.
watching. She'd be like, "Oh, duckies." All right.
All right.
So I don't know. I don't have much else to add to this. This is just we're not going to have a lot to say on every article, but if we feel like it's important news that it could affect you, we're going to bring it to you. So, Robin, you want to add anything else to this?
No.
I think it's funny.
I think you're going to, these smaller lenders,
They're
they're
gonna
going to
get
go under
destroyed.
one by one. I'm not saying 100% of them, but if you have any kind of leverage or any kind of mismanagement of funds, everybody's exiting DeFi in the masses. So
Brooke Yoshi said, "My daughter's looking over my shoulder saying, why is XRP in court with the Southeastern Conference? The SEC in football and
right.
Bama. Dogs are out, cats are in." All right, let's move on. Three Arrows Capital's crypto assets are in transit. Here's how the millions are moving. PeckShield, which is a blockchain security and analytics company, revealed that the embattled 3AC had moved a sizable portion of its crypto holdings to the KuCoin exchange, 20 million worth of USDC and 10 million worth of USDT. There is speculation that 3AC is gearing up for a mega trade to recoup the losses it suffered in the past few weeks. Other creditors include Deribit and blockchain.com. Deribit's a big one. If I'm not mistaken, Deribit is the largest derivatives market in crypto. If I'm not mistaken. Someone can fact check me on that. Robin, do you really think they're trying to make a mega trade to pay back anyone, or are they making a mega trade to just boop, boop, sail off into the sunset?
3AC?
Yeah.
They're filing for bankruptcy.
That's what I'm saying. So what?
They already filed a Chapter 15.
Okay, so what are they doing this trade for?
It's the same argument we were having earlier.
And I'm not trying to get into it.
You have to.
I lost so many brain cells.
Here's the thing, and I'm not going to go long into this. When you file for bankruptcy as a company, it is different than file for bankruptcy as a person. Perhaps as an individual, if you file for bankruptcy, you go to the lawyer. He's like, okay, you don't have to pay any of the stuff back. You got to sell one of your cars.
What if it's a she?
Now, if you're a company, you file for bankruptcy, it's a little bit more complicated, and you need to sell things you have and pay certain people back. And you need to, and if you can generate enough revenue in this way or that way, like whatever it is, you got to come up with a lot of money. And you got to disperse it in the right way. And you got lawyers and you got companies that are specially trained to do this. And so at face value, you can say, well, what's going on here? Like they're trying to make money. It's like this is the process.
So will they pay any money back to Voyager?
The same process that Celsius is doing by selling assets to the highest bidder. This is exactly what's happening here. No different.
All right. I don't got much to add to this. In other news, sounds like the IMF is softening their stance on cryptocurrency. Cryptos and CBDCs are more efficient payment options than debit cards, says the IMF. The International Monetary Fund, or I have a different name for them, but I only use it when I'm really mad at them. I'm not going to use it today. Has expressed that central bank digital currencies and some digital assets can serve as more effective payment solutions than the debit and credit cards that millions of people use. They stated, quote, depending on the specific details of how they are configured, CBDCs and some kinds of crypto assets can be more energy efficient than much of the current payment landscape, including credit and debit cards. IMF believes integrating CBDCs as well as cryptocurrencies with physical cards will speed up the rate of adoption. However, the IMF stated that proof of work currencies like Bitcoin, which require high carbon emissions, such bullshit. So underground. Like so uneducated, undereducated, if that's even a word. During the validation transactions, and they consume more energy than bank cards. So, hear me out on this. So the IMF is essentially IMF, World Bank, same thing, different.
I kind of agree with them. Here's the thing.
Okay, but
no, with the carbon
behind
thing,
it?
like you don't need to run Bitcoin is not efficient enough to be running payments. And so if you're going to have a replacement for the debit card and a replacement for a credit card, let's not go to Bitcoin. It's not really the answer.
Okay. So,
But this is just them dressing up. This is them buttering you up for a CBDC. That's literally all it is.
Why would a CBDC be important to the IMF, Robin?
Because they can control and monitor and regulate at the speed of the internet.
That's
also
right.
known as the speed of light.
That is right.
No,
The IMF is the world's central bank, essentially, okay? They have member nations, the U.S., China, that hold the highest two voting rights, right? So they bail countries out. They bail out entire nation states. So they bailed out Greece. People people are surprised they haven't bailed out Sri Lanka. But long story short, when you have a CBDC, and the IMF can now incorporate CBDCs, and let's say they give out loans to a country like Greece or this or that, they can essentially regulate where you spend that money. They say, okay, we're going to give you $10 billion, but you can only spend it here, here, and here. Or we want to see, and like Robin said, very transparent at the speed of light. You don't have to wait. It's like you see the transaction happening on the blockchain, and it gives them more power. It's all about power. CBDCs are about power, okay? When it comes to these governments and these large corporations and stuff like the IMF and the central bank and the ECF or whatever the hell, whatever. It's all about power, okay? Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin takes power away from governments. How do they regain some of that power? Well, let's use words like blockchain and digital currencies, but let's throw central banks in there so we can control and have power. My 2 cents.
It's like I said, they're just trying to promote their CBDCs. Because if you're saying that something is going to run payments, Visa, credit card, debit card, that scale, and then you're going to right off the rip say Bitcoin ain't going to do it. Nothing is big enough for the IMF to use right now, right?
Right.
So it's not like they're going to be like, we were partnering with even Cardano as an example. I mean, you're talking about a world monetary system. Like, that is peanuts. It's so small. Like, or XRP, like
you know who's
Ethereum is super tiny.
You know who's making strides, and this is kind of on topic but kind of off topic. You know who's making strides in CBDCs for nation states is Quant. I think they're yeah.
Who are they partnering with? Because I know Algorand has two networks right now that are pumping around CBDCs. And so I think they're the leader when it comes to
Quant. We'll have to do more digging.
What token are they using?
I believe they're working with the UK. Okay, I believe they're working with some South African or African countries. Don't quote me. I'm not 100% sure, but
yeah, but I saw some
Gray's
article
reading,
like that. Yeah,
right?
So Quant is in the middle of the.
Yeah, and it makes sense because the founder, Gilbert Verdian, he's worked for the Treasury Department of the Queen of England, and he's also worked for the it's either the IRS or the SEC or one of the large financial institutions here in the U.S. So he's been in those roles. He knows the inner workings of it, so it only makes sense. And Quant uses Overledger technology. By the way, if you want to learn more about Quant, that is our best performing video on this channel. It's essentially pinned to the top of the channel. Make sure you guys go watch it after the live. Came out really good. Really good content in there. So, yeah. All right. I want to talk about some kind of cool to end the talking points before we get into NFTs. Pull up my laptop. African infrastructure firm lands $150 million to launch crypto water token. South African-based H2O Securities has reportedly raised $150 million from the Gem digital investment firm through the sale of the H20N token. It will be used to guide funding and water delivery infrastructure in areas that lack sufficient access to fresh water. Gem Digital is a $3.4 billion Bahamas-based investment firm specializing in alternative investments such as digital assets and resource extraction devices. The token will be used to settle bills between the network participants, including water plant operators and their clients. By raising funds to finance water project, it claims to reduce the time it takes for water suppliers to deliver to new clients compared with traditional means. This is an example of when people say the only value cryptocurrency has or blockchain has is speculation and people all bullshit. Look what companies, you use the technology that is available to you. Now, if you decide to use it to just buy a meme coin and make 150% or lose 150%, that's up to you. But there are people in this world who are using blockchain, cryptocurrencies, digital assets to better the lives of people, okay? We in the U.S. are very comfortable. And if you don't travel outside the U.S., you know, I can't really blame you because you only see what they show you here. No one takes the time to go out to an African, a continent of Africa like newsletter and read the news going on there, or with Europe or with Australia. No one does it. So we're oblivious to it. but there are literally people in countries that have no water. They have zero water. They have zero food. The entire country of Sri Lanka is going in the shits. So when I see stuff like this, this is one of the reasons why I get so excited about our space, is so much you hear about pump and dumps and scams, which there are plenty. We need to highlight these types of things too. So this is essentially going to probably save people's lives, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Dude, there's so many. You mentioned scams. There's so many tokens that are feed the hungry, and 99% of them are scams. And you see them all the time. It's like, you buy a token and it feeds like X amount of people.
But these guys have a track record.
Gem
Digital has a track record.
I'm not delegitimizing what they say. I'm just saying that this space is full of these buy a token and it'll feed somebody thing, and I'm sure there are a handful of legitimate ones. I would just, before I put any kind of capital into
I'm
any
not
of
saying
these,
put money in it. I'm just saying what they're doing is awesome.
I think it makes sense. And if you're gonna, like, let's just say you're the Red Cross, for example, a lot of I think it's over 50% of money that gets donated to the Red Cross ends up funneling into the payments system. So basically,
Sorry.
So
I'm laughing at Daniel. He said Lake Mead needs the H2ON token.
So
No,
with the I don't even know.
What is that, a water sound effect?
No.
Oh, what was that I heard?
I don't know.
Sound like water. All right, Rocco, let's roll into our NFT segment of our show. Let's
Okay.
go. All right. Some exciting news for Robin and friends alike. Polium. Is it Polium or Polium? We'll go with Polium. Polium has announced the first NFT game console. A new console intended for Web3 gaming was announced and immediately met with resistance from some gamers. Curious to see what our gamer community thinks about this, because I have zero clue. I don't game. Web3 company Polium claims its, quote, Polium 1 system will be the world's first multi-chain game console that will be able to run games built on different blockchains. Sounds pretty cool. The console will have games and exclusive games. We are currently in talks with different Web3 game developers and will make some announcements soon. We know that a console can't be successful without games. This is from Polium. Supposed to launch in the Q3 of 2024 and will only be able to be reserved by players who purchase a Polium Pass, which will be an NFT on the ETH network, which 10,000 will be minted. This was pretty cool when I highlighted this. The console controller will include a fingerprint scanner for security and a wallet button to give players quick access to the console's multi-chain wallet designed to, quote, trade, exchange, gamble, and receive cryptocurrencies. Also, before I ask Robin's opinion, I'm going to just talk about this. So some have also pointed out that the console logo appears to be an inverted version of the GameCube logo. And you guys let me know what you think. Is this a copy of GameCube, just inverted? What do you guys think? Rocco, take our faces away. So on the left is GameCube, okay? On the right is Polium. What do you guys think? All right, you can take it away, Rocco. Robin.
Looks like a P. Why not? Okay. You know what? There's a couple cool ideas that come out of this article. So you have one is where you have a console system. The handheld system is what it sounded like, right?
No, it sounds like a Xbox, PlayStation.
Well, it doesn't matter. I was just thinking of fingerprint scanner. I was just thinking it's gonna be something you hold in. Anyways, and that's kind of popular now. They have
I mean, you can have it.
Steam just came out with their own little portable one, and a lot of and I'm also just imagining that a lot of play to earn games are kind of games that you would play on your cell phone. So it kind of would make sense to have something that would be handheld. Now I go back to the Samsung cell phone kind of ideology. You know what? We have computers, we have handheld systems. All of these run games. They all run applications. I don't understand why you have to build a specific device that only plays Web3 games that are designed exactly for that console. I feel like it's just destined to fail. I mean, right?
Why? Why would it be destined to fail?
Would you buy an iPhone? Okay. Would you buy anything that's so proprietary that you only use it for whatever exact applications it is?
Absolutely.
Okay, how about this? Would you buy an iPod?
Yes.
Like today, you go pay $1,000 for an iPod.
Hell yeah. It's a vintage.
No, but realistically, there's no point buying an iPod because an iPhone, you can make calls and text messages and everything. Like, why would you pigeonhole
but iPod's
yourself?
battery life is way better.
Why would you pigeonhole yourself into buying something that only plays MP3s when you can buy an iPhone that can do a multitude of things, including play MP3s? So why would you buy a computer that can only play Web3 based blockchain games when you can go buy a computer that plays everything and that can also be a work computer and do other stuff? It makes no sense.
It's too much work on the computer.
In the same way that, like, why would you buy what was it, the phone, a Solana phone?
The Solana phone, yes. Let's order one.
Why would you buy a Solana phone? Like, everything you put on the Solana phone, you could put on a regular phone, and it's built by somebody you trust. And so for the same reason, I say, why would you buy a Web3-based console system when all the Web3-based games can be played on any console system, essentially, any computer?
So you're not excited about this?
No, but what does excite me is some of the highlights. You had like interchangeable NFTs. You had the fingerprint scanner, which, if you're playing on your phone, you got an eye scanner. So I feel like the fingerprint scanner is a little outdated. I mean, who uses fingerprint scanners? And things are never even that efficient anymore. You ever went to like some work or something and they had a fingerprint scanner and you keep putting your finger on it, like, it's never very efficient. The iPhone, they did it pretty well. But any other fingerprint scanner I've ever used is, you have to like move your thumb a bunch of times. It's not very efficient, man. Use a retinal scanner. Fingerprints are outdated,
I'm excited. I would buy one.
You would. Yeah. You buy your Solana phone too.
I'd buy it and I'd play it for maybe a week and then I would not play it anymore. It would just be a collection in my home. All right. Axie Infinity news. Roquito, mucho gusto. In the Axie Infinity players now enjoy land staking. In the wake of relaunching their Ethereum Ronin bridge, Axie Infinity has now announced the release of a land staking feature in its gaming ecosystem. Users can now stake their land and earn rewards, which, according to Sky Mavis, the developer of Axie Infinity, is not only progress towards achieving intentional decentralization, but also a step towards delivering an engaging, beautiful, and rewarding experience for land NFT holders in the game. Land staking will see over 11,000 AXS tokens available per day, with the rarity level of the staked land determining the exact amount of AXS token to be awarded to each player. And users can also stake up to 3 land plots per transaction. Robin, have you ever played Axie Infinity?
No, but I watched gameplay of it, so I understand.
Kind of like Pokemon, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I love Pokemon. Do you like Pokemon?
It's okay.
Who's your favorite Pokemon?
I don't know.
Scaramouche.
Like Mewtwo. Mewtwo? You like Mewtwo?
I
like Venusaur.
He's all right.
Bulbasaur was pretty cool. Charizard was the OG.
I don't have any favorites when it comes.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts about this article, Robin? You think, first of all, the Ronin Bridge is back? Okay. does the Axie Infinity community, or just the play to earn game community, is trust restored with Sky Mavis, with the Ronin Bridge, for people to continue to spend their money on the platform?
No.
No?
No.
You still think Axie's dead?
I think this is on the way out. Honestly, the rewards that you're getting. So during the height of Axie Infinity, there are a lot of people were making a living, especially in third world countries that didn't have strong monetary systems, or basically people had low minimum wage. You could make a living by just simply grinding through the game. And unfortunately, that hasn't that's changed now. And so that the time where people were making enough money to live and buy houses and stuff and make rent, that was during the run up. That was during the bull market. And it's so far away from that now that, and especially after the Ronin hack, nobody's really making money. And then, but the key to it is that the game itself, I've seen a lot of reviews, I've looked into it, and maybe I haven't played it myself, but from my understanding is that the game is very repetitive.
Right.
It's the same thing over and over again. They're not really expanding the game itself, and they're not coming out with like sequels and all these different things. And so the biggest concern I've heard from the community is that it gets boring pretty quick. And so
HP brought up a good question.
I do wanna say that, you were asking what my favorite what is it? Pokemon was. And so
Here we go. Something dumb.
hold on a second. Let me make this large here.
Is it like a Lyrosaurus or a Lyrosaur?
So here's a guy. He decides, pull it up. This guy decides to pull it. He gets a Pikachu firework. This is an homage to. Let me turn the sound on. So this is an homage to 4th of July, and so your boy here he got a Pokemon firework. He got a Pikachu firework.
Jesus Christ.
That's all.
That was funny. Not as funny as the baby thing.
Very close.
The baby was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. That was hilarious. My brother's dumb butt. Yesterday, we're doing fireworks in my front yard, and he decides to jump over one. And my 3 kids are standing there. I'm like, you see what your uncle did? He's a dumbass. Don't do it.
Lighting fireworks inside of your house, whether or not it's on top of a Pikachu, might not be the smartest thing to do.
Probably a good idea. What I wanted to ask was, HP said, if we ever launch our NFT line, what chain would we launch it on? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ethereum.
Cardano.
Okay. Definitely not Solana.
Polygon.
Definitely not Binance Smart Chain. 99% of Binance Smart Chain. I was very bullish on BNB, but until I've changed my tune on that one. But anyways, I vote Ethereum or any Ethereum layer 2s. Robin votes Cardano. We'll see. All right, Rocco, last segment of our show, market analysis. Let's go. Let us take a gander at the cryptocurrency markets. We are currently sitting at $3 million shy of a $900 billion market cap for cryptocurrency. Trading volume, very low, but we saw an uptick. When Robin brought it up, I believe we're closer to 55 billion. We are now reaching 60 billion. Bitcoin dominance is down to 42.5%. ETH dominance, 15.2. This was as high as almost 20%. So a quarter of ETH dominance has gone away. Will it come back? Who knows? Bitcoin sitting right under 20K. 24 billion in volume on Bitcoin. So not bad. Also, we've seen Tether. We've seen their market cap rise. We talked about this yesterday as far as people in Argentina. They were buying Tether. And then ETH sitting at 1100. Again, BNB. I used to be very bullish on BNB. But I'm just starting to to see more and more that 90% of the projects that launch on Binance Smart Chain are the scams, the pump and dumps. I mean, name the last great project that's in the top 25 that launched on BSC.
So what's the difference? Why is BNB fault? I don't understand.
Well,
It can happen
it's
to
a lot
anything else.
easier to launch a
I mean,
token,
if anything,
and
that's,
it's cheaper.
if anything, that's a bullish idea that, you know, the cost of launching anything on Ethereum and even Solana is so much more pricier.
But if
than-
you're a company or a team and you're serious about launching a project, you're not going to care if you got to spend 5-10 grand to launch on the biggest network versus spending $200 launching on BNB.
No, it's not about like, oh, you're a big company. You know, that idea, you know, in the same way that, like, if I start a career and I happen to make 100 grand a year and somebody looks at me like, well, you make a lot of money, man. You shouldn't have any problems. You shouldn't complain about money. You make 100 grand a year. Like, doesn't matter, man. However, you know, if a company has a lot of money, doesn't mean that they need to go throw away 10 grand to go launch a project on a token when it should cost $1. And you know what? Even outside of the cost of starting something, if you launch on Ethereum, you're not just paying the gas fee one time. Every time you transact on Ethereum, you're paying a gas fee. Every single time. Every time a transaction is fulfilled, you're paying a gas fee. So is it cheaper, smarter, faster to run on Binance? Yeah.
As an investor,
Okay, you can say the same thing about Bitcoin when it first started. Be like, everyone was buying drugs with Bitcoin. Why would you buy
Binance
Bitcoin?
Smart Chain hasn't just started.
It's been around for like 5 years. And what I'm saying, at Bitcoin at 5 years when Silk Road was open, everyone was buying and selling drugs with Bitcoin. You could easily say, well, why would I use Bitcoin when it's used for drugs? You're saying the same thing. You're like, why would I use Binance when it's used for meme coins?
But you're talking about a time when none of the crypto space was developed at all. Now we have a developed space with multiple options. All I'm saying is if I'm investing in a coin, if I see Binance Smart Chain, I'm very...
Well,
It's my first red flag.
Binance Smart Chain, their smart contracts wasn't created to launch tokens.
Well,
They're created for they're a smart contract platform. The easiest smart contract to make is a
dumb contract.
Is a
scam contract.
Is a meme token. It's basically you carbon copy another token and you change the circulating supply and you launch it. That's the fastest and easiest way to do it. So that's why it takes no skill. I can go launch a token on Binance, but I can also do it on Ethereum. It's just going to cost me a lot more money. And so if I'm cheap and I'm trying to scam people, I'm just going to launch it there.
That's my point. I'm just saying if I was an investor, from an investor standpoint, right? I'm not saying project founder, whatever. From an investor standpoint, if I see a token and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty cool, and I see Binance Smart Chain, immediately red flag. I got to do like
I agree,
5 times the amount of research.
But that doesn't discount the strength of the chain that it's on. Binance itself is.
I mean, it's getting the moniker scam chain. So,
but that's a good thing because everybody's using it.
Why is that a good thing? Why is the scam chain a good thing?
I'm saying that
from an optics perspective, why would that be a good thing?
That your project is so cheap that you can launch
it.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Rocco, do not ring the bell. I don't have the mental capacity to do this. I have to go through this whole thing, this market, please.
But you just say not to ring it.
Don't ring it. No, that's what I'm saying. Don't. We have a lot. We're running out of time.
Like an instinct. Like you say, okay, ring it.
We'll save this for later, okay? All right.
Okay, to be continued.
All right. All right. So I made a statement. I think the Bitcoin bottom's in, and this is just based off of analytics on chain and what I believe to be sentiment and how that's going to change during a recession. So the first thing I want to show you guys is the Bitcoin accumulation trend score. So this is essentially large entities that are buying up Bitcoin. So it goes from 0 to 1, the trend score. And the closer you get to 1, that essentially means everyone is accumulating. All the larger entities are accumulating. And this is from June 14th till now. And we have been above 90 the entire time. And I'm not going to show every single point in the charts, but every single point in the charts that I've studied on this accumulation score, that we've seen it reach over 95 for an extended period of time, typically signaled it's been a precursor to a big rally. Okay, that's number one. So let's put that up against the number of Bitcoin addresses with balance of more than 10. Same time frame. We went from 147,000 wallets that have more than 10 Bitcoin to 148,000. So we added 1,000 wallets that have more than 10 Bitcoin. Okay, so it correlates to what the accumulation score is telling us. Okay, so those two things correlate. Now, let's take a look at balance of Bitcoin on exchanges. This is from May of 2018 till currently. And you can see we haven't been this low since August of 2018. And this is why in the beginning of the show that I said, all we're missing is a small catalyst to get us back literally to 30K overnight. Literally to 30K overnight. We need a catalyst. What will that catalyst be? Who knows? How large does it have to be? I don't know. But it has to be a positive catalyst. So no money left on exchanges. Large entities are accumulating. Whale wallets are growing. Retail wallets are growing. And every time I show it, we're at an all-time high. So I don't need to show it. So all we need is that demand. Because supply has shrunk. Supply is down. We need demand. Another thing I want to show you guys is what I said. People will turn. I said there's a country that is, inflation is so high, people are turning to Bitcoin. Well, here it is, Turkey. Turkey's peer-to-peer Bitcoin trading volume is up 40% as the country's inflation skyrockets to 78%. Turkey, they're a pretty big economy. Now, where they rank in the world, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to say it. They're a member of NATO. They have a pretty big economy. If Robin wants to fact check me on this, he can.
They're the dumpster fire of economies in the EU.
Right, but I mean, they're pretty large.
They almost literally crashed the euro. Like they single-handedly almost crashed the euro.
Right, but they're a significant economy.
Oh, they're prominent.
I mean, for God's sake, the U.S. wouldn't allow Finland and Sweden into NATO unless Turkey signed off on it. So they have some sort of pull. Maybe it's the region they're in, whatever the case may be, okay? Here's an example of what I was trying to explain earlier. People are saying, all right, our government doesn't know what the hell they're doing. What monetary asset can we put our money into that we have control over it? And that is Bitcoin. Here's another concern, okay, that people have brought up, that I've brought up, is Bitcoin miners, right? They have been unplugging as the price cratered from 40,000 to 30,000 to 25 to 19 to 18. ASICs have been unplugging from the network. And we want difficulty go down when the price of Bitcoin goes down, so more miners plug in. It's easier to mine a block for Bitcoin. Also, did you see the super chat?
Okay,
Augusaurus, I love you.
Let me ring the bell.
Oh, okay, ring the bell. Robin, you lizard. All right, that's all I got. Augusaurus, hey, in all seriousness, appreciate the super chat, my man. Thank you so much. He said, no more cappuccino, Rocco.
I love my cappuccino.
He doesn't drink. You do? I thought you were an espresso guy. I mean, I know there's espresso and cappuccino, but
yeah,
you're a purist.
If you love coffee, you drink it any far. It's like being a beer guy. I'm like, I only drink IPAs. Like, no, I like a Hefeweizen. I like me.
No, there's people who only drink IPAs.
But not Italians. They drink all the coffees.
What do you know about Italians? You're not an Italian.
I lived in Italy. I spoke Italian.
For how long? For 2 months?
I only spoke Italian when I moved to the United States.
Okay, Rocco. Well, we have an Italian in house.
Yeah. So
are you a purist espresso, or do you like it with latte, cappuccino, macchiato?
I with everything. The espresso by itself, I drink with no sugar.
That's like him saying he only likes one kind of pasta, bro.
Let the man speak.
I like that idea.
What's your favorite kind of pasta?
Oh no, I can't say. I can't say one
See?
pasta. I can't say. I mean, I like the spaghetti, but it's
All right,
not,
fine. I stand
like
corrected. I apologize.
I like the
Sorry,
farfalle,
Rob.
I like the linguine, I like the bucatini.
I like
the
fettuccine.
paccheri are very good. Paccheri are like big rigatoni, very fat, so you can cannelloni,
getting hungry, man. I'm
lasagna.
about to get
Cannelloni
Okay.
sounds good.
Yeah, yeah.
Pasta does sound good. Okay, all right. Let's get back.
You ever
Let's get
been
back.
to Giada's over there on
No,
Las Vegas
I heard-
Boulevard?
I have some news on Giada, but I don't want to
I might
share.
go check that out.
Yeah, you
Boy,
got
getting
it.
kind of hungry.
Okay. Anyways, we're losing viewers as we keep going on. All right.
Rocco, can you get me a reservation at Giada's tonight?
Of course, I can.
Okay.
Rocco, they call him Mr. Vegas. The man's got like an
If you
octopus.
need any reservation here,
You let me know.
If you need a reservation in at an Italian restaurant
Oh,
in
even
Las
non-Italian.
Vegas.
Even non-Italians. STK, Michael Mina, you let me know.
Oh man,
All right.
international baby.
Okay. Pull up my laptop.
Okay.
Now, I said miners are unplugging. Well, guess what? We tweeted this on our Twitter, but this is from Bitcoin Archive. So the handle is at BTC_archive. I'd recommend you guys go follow this page. Always puts out great tweets, great insight. Intel, New Energy says new energy efficient Bitcoin mining ASICs are already shipping out to customers. So what happens when you have these newer ones that are more energy efficient, the price they have to mine Bitcoin at drops significantly for them to stay profitable. And that is what you need for miners to stop unplugging their ASICs from the network. So again, bullish. All right. And then another thing I want to show, this is on Crypto Stackers Pro. Now, we talk about the significance of these easy bands. Okay. So essentially they measure oversold, overbought territory. We have only spent, okay, so if the time we've spent between the solid green and the dashed green easy band, okay? So here it was November 16th to January 2nd. So let's say 2 months. From here, this is the COVID crash. This is from March, so about 10 days. From here, it was barely June to July, a month. And we've already been trading in this area since June 9th. So we're almost at a month. How much longer are we going to stay in this zone if history tells us anything? So accumulation score, whale addresses, exchanges, balance on exchanges. You have spending time in these levels of accumulation zones that people are accumulating. And then you talk about a country like Turkey. The people are going to Bitcoin. And then help is on the way for miners to stay profitable.
You know, I will say though, all of those are good points. The one thing though, the balance on exchanges. I think a lot of people are this whole exchanges going under, crypto miners going under. I think a lot of the exodus from the exchanges isn't so much the prototypical hodler mentality where they're just taking it off and putting in cold storage. I think a lot of people are just protecting.
Okay, but
their
here's
assets.
okay,
Good
but
thing, though.
okay, but let me ask you a question. As a retail investor, not a hodler, are you more inclined to sell your Bitcoin when it's on Coinbase versus when it's on your?
Like I said, it's still a bullish scenario. But also you got to think. You know, everybody always puts into the category removing from exchanges bullish. As you reduce supply, you increase volatility. And so when you have less Bitcoin on an exchange, the price moves faster in either direction because the order books aren't as heavy, aren't as thick. So if you were to see a decline, for example, and you have less on exchange, it's going to drop faster than it would if you had a lot more Bitcoin on an exchange.
And same thing in the reverse.
In the same way with the DEX, you know what I mean? If you have low liquidity, the price will move really fast. But
Big D said, nice. We have reservations from Rocco, taxi from Robin, waiting on David's Las Vegas service offer. That is a great comment. Big D, I'm gonna have to think on that one, okay? And then just to kind of real quick to wrap this show up today, you guys, we're just gonna take a quick look at what Bitcoin chart's doing. RSI, we're currently sitting at around 33, so not super closer to oversold than overbought, which is a good thing. But we've been in this downtrend for a long time. I mean, if you zoom out and take a look from the top, I mean, we've been just here. We've had multiple trend lines I can draw. I can draw one there. I can draw one here. So it seems like this lower trend line here, and as it's sloping down, seems to be a pretty good. We bounced off of it twice. We bounced off of it here. We wicked all the way down in May, and then we wicked down again twice June of this year. So, look, there's only so far Bitcoin can go down. There's only so far it go down. We all agree it's not going to zero, okay? And waiting to time the market, if you spend enough time in the market, you will make money. So I know my portfolio is down a lot, like a lot. I showed my wife and she almost threw up. But I had to explain to her, look, this is long term. Should I have taken some profits? Yes. But again, that was a mistake I made. And if I would have just listened to one of my friends who's the profit-taking master, I was like, yo, this shit's, I'm like, I'm never selling Bitcoin. He's like, why? Just sell it, buy it back when it dips lower. And I refused. And because I was so, I'm like, I'm hodling. Retrospect, probably should have. And at the time I wasn't using Crypto Stacker. Should have. I mean, and by the way, that platform is so easy. If you just start DCing out when it goes up here between the red lines and DCing in, you will, like, you do that 2-3 cycles, you're going to be wealthy. So by the way, if you are want to use Crypto Stackers Pro, the link to the to onboard is in the description of this video and is not an affiliate link. We are not making money. We just believe in this product so much, and we love Forrest and we believe in him that we will keep that in the description of our video.
We'll talk about it tomorrow a little bit more so, but the 10 and 2 year bond yields have inverted. So this is just flipped here. Pull up my laptop real quick. Bonds flash recession warning as the yields invert. 2 year and 10 year have 2 years 2.79 versus the 2.78 on the 10 year. So
the key factor, and we'll talk about this tomorrow. The key factor is how long does it stay inverted? Because we inverted
last time it just was like a
2
couple
days.
days. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And we covered that. It was a few months ago. The key is, and before economists will come out and say, yes, we're in a, I mean, I feel like the more and more time goes on, these economists want to see more and more metrics and more studies to claim a recession when we've literally been in one since January. Anyways, I'll do it for the show today. Rocco, roll the outro. Friends, family, crypto family members, Rocco, put yourself in there too when we say our goodbyes, please. Thank you very much. On behalf of myself, Robin, and Rocco, we thank you guys so much for joining us on this lovely Tuesday, July 5th. We hope you enjoy the content. Do not subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, go check out the other content, share with your friends on Twitter. We love you guys.
If you're not a member yet, make sure you member up.
Member up.
We get 2 more members, we get another emoji.
And we'll see you. Anyways, until tomorrow, my friends, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. Peace.
I got 16 missed calls on my phone. Times change, Mickey D's turn into Rabuchon. Kick my feet up, drink leader, smoke on a new strong. Couple margaritas, senoritas, I goof off. Smoking on the island, say she wanna ride with me. Took her on a flight, said all her bags from Italy. I sent her with a friend, they shopping there religiously. Whoa, whoa, yeah. You say she love me, but that's when she rockin' Prada bag. Said she ready for the next step, whoa, not so fast. Slow down, girl, don't you crash. Whoa, whoa, yeah. Cause we can mess up that pretty face, but we can fuck up that pretty lady. Tryna kiss off, I'm in your place. Man, this shit so crazy. Never thought I'd be doing shit like this again. Put that effort in, girl, then I will pay you. Crash that thing out the park, now I feel like Babe Ruth, baby. This shit I can't do, baby. No, I can't move, baby. Nothing I can't prove, baby. I got 16 missed calls on my phone. Times change, Mickey D's turn into Rabuchon. Kick my feet up, drink leader, smoke on a new strong. Couple margaritas, senoritas, I goof off. I got 16 missed calls on my phone. Times change, Mickey D's turn into Rabuchon. Kick my feet up, drink leader, smoke on a new strong. Couple margaritas, senoritas, I goof off. Question marks along your brain, wonder if you should try again. Look at me inside your braces. Can't focus when we face to face. Plenty things I could go say. Name a place I go and pay at. Said she want no boo. Been around the world, plenty things I can show you. Taking flights to GA for our soul food. Gotta pay 1K for GA at my shows too. Keep a 1K with my fans even at my lows. Ooh. That's why I'm back. Show your man the things I've showed you. Tell your man how I used to hold you, but I won't hold you. Your new man is lame and all I spoke is true. Life won't smoke for you. That sadness comes with coping too. This madness come with shit that's overdue. You strong with yourself, nobody else holding you, but I ain't holding you. You the one I need when I'm off that perk or two. Hit that thing early, got you sleep like curve for you. All these lame ass bitches I curve for you. These packs and pearls I burnt with you. It's up now, baby, it's stuck. They can look, but they cannot.